I got my 30-second warning, so I think I'm going to be good.
I mean, there's going to be a little lag, so I would say.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to Keeping Friendship Magic. The end is the beginning. My name is Forward Progress. Thank you all for joining us today for PonyFest Online. The next hour or so, we're going to be talking a lot about kind of what's been going on a little bit lately and how it relates to Pony and how we can all cope through this tough time together. One of the things when I first came up with this panel last year, this was in response to a lot that we were facing as a fandom with the series about to end, with BronyCon announcing it was going to be its last year. There was a lot of finality seeming and a lot of people talking about, is the fandom gonna die? Is it gonna be all over for us? And where do we go from here? And I wanted to take a look at that. And I feel like a lot of these concepts are very much a sense of what we are facing right now. We can be very much a part of this going forward, of facing these challenges head on together through the concepts of My Little Pony, through social science, through togetherness and friendship and fandom. So that being said, our first topic of conversation we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about some characters we got to meet in the last couple of seasons, and that's these folks right here. Who out there is big fans of the Student 6? I know I am. I don't know if you can see it, but I've got a Galbar t-shirt on today. Love the Student 6. But when we first met the Student 6, we got an interesting introduction to some concepts here that I feel apply to a lot of things with finalities and endings. And we're going to jump right into it here with this one right here.
Well, then perhaps you should return to your kind.
Your kind? Smolder, let's go!
Queen Novo will want to hear of this.
Well, this place seemed lame anyways.
It's fine. We know not every pony sees us the way you do. We're used to it.
Regardless. By order of the EEA, I am shutting this school down.
So, let's talk about closing doors. We've had a lot of closing doors lately with conventions that have had to unfortunately cancel for this year or postpone. We do send our love out to everybody that's involved with them, with BabsCon, ZenkaiCon, TACO, Winnie City PonyCon. There's so many people affected right now. And let's face it, doors are closing in many other ways right now in response to the current pandemic. People's jobs are closing up. I here am in Pennsylvania, and the governor just yesterday ordered stay-at-home orders for several counties here. So there's a lot of doors closing, and it's a very scary time. And what we want to talk about here is how we process information in these times where it seems like there's misunderstandings going on all over the place, and a lot of information isn't all there. So one of the concepts we're going to talk about with this is a concept called cognitive dissonance. It was coined by a man named Leon Festinger back in the 70s. Basically what this means, this is all talking about how your brain processes information. So when you get information that doesn't fit with what your vision of the world is and how things aren't, where things aren't the way they should be, it comes into your brain, and your brain kind of goes like, ow, I don't like this, I don't want this, I don't want to hear this. There's a thing, your brain does not like getting information that does not jive with your view of the world. Right now we have a lot of that. Hearing about closings of conventions, hearing about things about our jobs, about our friends. This is not what we want in the world. So therefore, our brain is having a hard time comprehending this. Now, The thing with cognitive dissonance is a lot of times what happens is your brain doesn't want to hurt. It doesn't like this pain. So what it tries to do is it kind of tries to shut it out by design. It kind of tries to be like, okay, I get this information, I know it is, but I'm going to deny it. I'm going to push it away. And this is a lot of how we get issues where, like in this episode that we just watched the clip for, where Chancellor Naysay is very much like the outside world is a threat. And he can't get it in his head that, okay, there's another way. He sees one instance of these are the others, and is quick to close down that school. And then what's the first thing that happens when he's threatening to close down the school and making these statements? Everybody goes to leave. And nobody wants to leave, especially not the Student 6 in this scenario, as we get to see further in the episode.
Huh. This place is way cooler than I thought it'd be.
Even I'm impressed. What's it called again, Osalis?
The Castle of the Two Sisters. I remembered it from class. Princess Twilight's history of pre-equestrian friendships.
Ha! Who knew? School was actually good for something.
Yona not really like school, but Yona like new friends. Smolder like breathing. Hey, you guys! Sandbar is back!
Pillows! How nice! The castle is going to be so much more comfy.
And fun! Pillow fight! You guys!
I just found...
Stairs!
Okay, come on. Who doesn't love that moment? I love that moment so much. Bless you, Lauren Jackson. Anyway, let's talk about our response to these situations here. We've talked a little bit about the cognitive dissonance, about how you kind of have to fight your brain to get through for processing information properly. Fight or flight concept. I'm sure most of you are in have some kind of working knowledge of it, at least. Basically, your brain is hardwired to get you through this world. It's hardwired to make it such that you can survive. And that's where fight or flight comes in. And a lot of times, and especially right now, with all the chaos in the world and things closing up, we need to find a way to deal with it here. And it's kind of hard to fight right now, and it's kind of easy to flight. It's very, this is a disease. We aren't all scientists who can cure disease. And trust me, you don't want me in a lab. Just trust me here. I'm a soft scientist, not a hard scientist. So it's easy to have the flight response, which is here to protect us. It is the social distancing. It is the staying at home. However, a great thing that's happening right now at this time, and it's evidenced by this very convention today, is we're still fighting. We are fighting to stay connected to our friends, just like the Student 6 found a way to still stay together, even when they were told that they had to be apart. Now, granted, that doesn't mean go into the Everfree Forest and all of a sudden try to, hole up around a bunch of evil creatures and such. I'm gonna say let's not do that, alright, everyone? But we have the internet. We have the technology, literally, so we can still connect. We can all come together here and celebrate our friendship, celebrate ponies, and we can all get through this together. And there's so much more that we got to see even in this episode here.
I wondered how long you'd take to get tired of Pillow Fort pouting.
Every pony's already tried to cheer me up. It won't work.
Oh, I'm not gonna cheer you up. I'm gonna tell you what you did wrong. What? You gave up too easily. Hey, you made me a guidance counselor. That means tough love.
Naysay was right. I failed. The school was a disaster.
So was I when you met me. But you showed me that when you know in your heart something is right, you stand up for it. You did that for me. Why not for this?
I can't go against the EEA. They're in charge of all the schools in Equestria.
And you're in charge of all the friendship in Equestria. Why should you let some pony else stop you from doing your job?
But the EEA rulebook...
Doesn't matter. You can write your own rules because you're doing something new, something important.
Can we first acknowledge the fact that that moment of Starlight knocking the book, best moment of season 8. Hands down. It's wonderful. But Twilight was ready to give up. And I think a lot of us have had that thought lately in the midst of this time, in the midst of this crisis, is how are we going to get through this? How are we going to make it through? Is it even worth trying and fighting? And we all need that Starlight in our lives. I know Thoth Penswell is probably watching right now and is appreciating the crap of me praising Starlight Glimmer. But for Glim Glam fans out there, she really had it. She was the right choice for guidance counselor. She had to be able, she had that ability to say it and to have that perspective. We all fall down. Right now, we as a nation, as a world, as a community, we have fallen down and we're picking ourselves back up, but that's okay. With new problems come new solutions. We find it through our friendship. We find it through our community. We find it through each other. We find it by looking at what we've dealt with before and knowing we can get through this as long as we stay together and united through this challenging time and this process. So, we've talked about closing doors here and how to handle them. Now, the next step in this process we're going to talk about, we're going to switch gears a little bit from the Student 6 and talk about another group we got to meet in the last couple of seasons that I think a lot of us love. I know especially my lovely fiance is a big fan of them, and that's these folks right here.
The Kirin are usually peaceful and kind, but when they get mad, they turn into Nyrics, creatures made of fire and vengeance.
That seemed less scary when it was in a song.
The last time they all argued, they got so angry, they accidentally destroyed their whole village. So the Kirin decided to make sure it would never happen again.
We're going to talk about problem solving. Obviously, we're always going to have problems in life that we need to work through and get through. And sometimes it feels overwhelming. Obviously, right now, there's a lot of things that definitely feel overwhelming that we're all dealing with. But the biggest thing we learn in this episode here is the choice that the Kirin made where they gave up a part of themselves. And this episode serves as a very cautionary tale about doing that, about what happens when you give up part of who you are. Now, that's to say, depending on what that part is, if it's the part that's, got nothing but hatred, it's, maybe something you want to work on, but maybe the thing is you don't want to give up any part of yourself completely. It is okay to experience anger, hurt, sadness, pain. This is all part of the human experience. This is what makes us complete people, complete individuals. And this is how we problem solve, by experiencing these emotions, letting our brains process the emotions along with our logic centers to come up with solutions for it. And sometimes we get thrust into situations and we're not sure how 100% we're going to deal with it. And that's something we got evidenced a little bit in this episode here.
Where are they taking us?
To the stream of silence! If we hit that water, we'll never be able to talk or feel anything ever again!
Put them down!
It's alright. I think I know this one, and she's trying to help.
Well, yeah. Can't have them silence the only friend who'll speak to me.
She talks?
You have no idea. Fluttershy, meet Autumn Blaze.
Well, thank you for that, wall of fire, but I thought Nyrics were dangerous when they're angry. How did you know you could control your temper?
I didn't. I guess anger's like other feelings. It's not about having them, it's what you do with them.
And giving up happiness to keep away anger is no kind of life.
I never thought of it that way. I can't imagine not being able to talk to my animal friends.
We all have to learn how to deal with our dark side. Everyone has those emotions. Anger, hatred, vengeance, all this stuff is a part of us. We do experience it naturally. And while it's not, it's not something that it's like, oh, you want to be angry, you want to be sad, you want to hurt. Nobody wants to hurt. But it's part of the human experience. It's something we all have to deal with. And it's not about whether or not you have them, it's what you do with them. Anger can inspire you. Sadness, hate, all of this can inspire you to do something about it. It's just, you have to experience it. It's a part of life. It sucks, but it's not always the end of the world. And that is an important thing for all of us to keep in mind, especially in these times. You want to experience your emotions. It's important to have them and to experience them and to process what's happening. And it's not just what's happening right now. It can be any problem. You have a problem at work, for example, or like a promotion you get passed over for, or one of your friends does something. You're okay to feel upset, hurt, angry about it. But it's a matter of what you do with it. Do you let that consume you and control you, or do you channel that into working through it and making yourself stronger in the end? And what you can do to help others in that process.
I think they're trying to say something.
Okay, are you hungry? Oh no, some Kieran trapped in a well? Okay, baby fish. Baby fish mouth? Something? Anything? Just write it down! Ugh, this is making me furious.
Would you excuse me? I'll be right back. You were saying...
Oh! You want the cure for the stream of silence!
Autumn Blaze, you have given us a gift. The realization that anger is within us, but it is our choice how we let it out.
So, what happens is finding alternative solutions to problems. And the best thing here is by working through our emotions and being together, being connected, having friends, is how we determine different solutions to problems. Let's face it, most of us out there probably have that one friend who, quote unquote, knows us better than ourselves. And a lot of times, that's the thing you need. You need somebody to come at it with a fresh perspective, an alternative idea. Seeing Autumn Blaze experience anger, go behind that rock, invent it, and come back out. I mean, what better metaphor do you need for dealing with it? We all need to vent. Trust me. I actually carpool to work with a good friend of mine. That is when the office is open and we're allowed to go in. But I digress. But a lot of times after work, we each, if we need it, it gives us a chance to have a nice vent session about what bothered us through the day. If we had a bad customer on the phone, something like that. These things happen. We get anxiety, we get depression, it happens. But that's why friendship comes in. That's where talking with each other comes in. That's where acknowledging the darkness comes in and realizing that it's not all of you. It's just a part of you. And that's okay, because you can channel it to be stronger and be more you than you've ever been before. So we've talked about, closing doors. We've talked about problem solving. Now we're going to apply some of this problem solving here to our next topic here. And we're going to talk about a character we've known for since the very beginning almost in season 1. And that is this character right here.
You are Queen Lame-o with your weak little party pranks. Did you really think you could make me lose my cool? Well, Dash and I have 10 times as much cool as the rest of you put together. Come on, Dash. We're bailing on this pathetic scene. Come on, Rainbow Dash. I said we're leaving.
You know, Gilda, I was the one who set up all those weak pranks at this party.
What?
Ooh. So I guess I'm Queen Lame-o.
Come on, Dash. You're joshing me. No way. It was Pinkie Pie. She set up this party to trip me up, to make a fool of me.
Me? I threw this party to improve your attitude. I thought a good party might turn that frown upside down. And you sure didn't need any help making a fool of yourself. You know, this is not how I thought my old friends would treat my new friends. If being cool is all you care about, maybe you should go find some new cool friends someplace else.
We're going to talk about the concept of losing a friend here. One of the things, as much as we talk about friendship, and friendship being magic, sometimes we're not going to maintain a friendship. And sometimes that's actually a good thing overall. So let's talk about a few concepts here. First, we got to talk about attitude here. In this episode here, we see Gilda with quite the attitude. She has her mind set on the way the world is and the way the world should be. Remember, we were talking about that a little bit ago, about this is Dash, she is mine. I'm not letting anybody else in this. This is how I feel the world should be. And if it's, and other people do it to me, and I can dish it out, but I can't take it. That's a big one right there. And let's actually delve deeper into that, because pranks played a big part in this episode here. Pranks are okay and fun if all parties involved will find it fun. It's not going to be great when you're pranking somebody who isn't in on the joke, who will not appreciate it. It's a thing I remember every April Fool's Day, which is coming up, by the way, everybody. Every April Fool's Day, there's inevitably some people creating fake news stories that get circulated around and throw people into a panic and anger a lot of people, myself included, I gotta say. I'm not a big fan of that. I actually usually take myself off of social media for the day on April 1st, just because. But Gilda here, she has developed her attitude. She wants to dish it out but can't take it. She's doing things where she's not, to people who aren't in on the joke, who don't want to be it. This is somebody being all about herself. And friendship is more than that. I mean, need we go down the list of the elements of harmony? You know, just generosity. Like, laughter is one of the elements, but it's not laughing at, it's laughing with. We see that in so many Pinkie Pie episodes. Pinkie Pride being a prime example in my head of making sure everybody's included. The other thing I want to talk about with this is this concept of toxicity. And we've often hear it told about a toxic person, even a toxic fandom. I've heard people call the brony fandom a toxic fandom, and I, for one, don't agree with that. I think the fact that there's literally thousands of people who have signed up for this stream is evidence that people want to come together in a time of need. And that's the least toxic thing I can think of. But what I will say about toxicity is I don't think necessarily that people are inherently toxic, but I think that as we go through life and develop our relationships, there's an idea, a sense of somebody may be toxic to you at that time. This happened to me a couple years ago, in fact, and I don't know if toxic would be the correct word, but tell a little bit of story. I actually used to be an admin for a number of years for a local area brony meetup group, and after a couple of years, things started to kind of fizzle out. Nobody could really pinpoint why at the time, but things were just not feeling right, and I wasn't feeling as connected to people. And especially one of the people that was with me, who was I always considered one of my best friends, nothing felt right. And then there was a convention a couple of years ago where You know, as much as I talked up everything, a lot of people just, they didn't want to come support me at my panels. They, finding out people were talking things about me and my fiance behind our backs. And it was a very hard time for me where I had to say, I don't know what to do here. And as a knee-jerk reaction, which actually turned out probably overall to be the right one, is I ended up cutting ties with certain people, and one person who, up until then, I had always considered to be one of my best friends. And the thing was, it's like, I just didn't feel like things were right. Something wasn't right, and we weren't right together in that moment. And it hurt, and it hurt bad for a long time. And it took me a long time to get over that process here. But we're going to talk a little bit more coming up here on how I got over that. The story continues into the next segment. But the bottom line I want to convey is sometimes it's okay to lose a friend. Not everybody is going to be right in your life all the time. Sometimes you need some space. Sometimes you need some distance. Sometimes you need to disconnect. And that's okay. You have to put yourself first no matter what. You still want to connect with your friends. You still need to have the strong bonds. Friendship is so important. But not if you are suffering because of it. And that's what I was at that time. That being said, it's possible to get through this at a later date. You could lose connection with somebody and find them again at another time.
The very heart of the Griffin Kingdom. I don't know if either of you have read Bygone Griffins of Greatness, but Griffins were known to be rude, insensitive bullies. You mean Gilda? Yeah, I mean Gilda. When she came to Ponyville, she was a total jerk to all my friends, especially Pinkie Pie. She was a bit of a party pooper. Mm-hmm. So maybe Gilda was a little rude. You still get to go to Griffinstone, and according to this book, it has a rich, fascinating history. And why do you care so much about griffins anyway? It was actually Gilda's visit that made me curious. So I picked up Bygone Griffins of Greatness, and I've been hooked ever since. And now you two get to see Griffinstone with your very own eyes. Huh? Just me and Rainbow Dash? Hey, you can totally take my place if you want.
I still had half a nap to finish.
So let's talk about finding that friend, reconnecting with that friend. The first part we're going to talk about within that is attitude again. We talked about attitude in the last segment. We're bringing it back up again because in this case, who has the attitude in this scenario? Rainbow Dash. Rainbow Dash doesn't even want to go, doesn't even want to try, doesn't even want to make an effort. And I gotta say, for me, that was me for a long time. I really had this wall built up around myself of, why should I be the one to have to try? Why should I be the one that have to put myself forward? And, you know, I tried at one point to connect, and then I felt like I was getting the cold shoulder, and I just was like, no, I'm not doing this. And that's why communication is so important. Communication is crucial to maintaining friendships and finding new pathways. And think about this. Nobody would blame you if you cut yourself off from somebody who hurt you. This is very true. Nobody will ever blame you for that. However, sometimes it might not be a bad idea to just have the communication, just even for yourself, to know that you made the effort, to know that you still are being a strong person who's trying to go out there in the world and make the best of it. This is a crazy world sometimes. It's a scary world. Not everybody is going to be right for us. But if you know you tried and you communicated and you opened yourself up to it, you can hold your head high at all times. And who knows what might happen.
Hang on, loser! I'm coming! What took you so long, doofus? Rainbow Dash! I'm coming for you! No! Gotcha! me than some dumb chunk of gold.
Learning a new way. There's new ways to solve these problems. There's new ways to connect to people that you didn't think possible. Rainbow Dash had to open herself up, and Gilda had to open herself up. They both had to open themselves back up to connect. And I can speak to that myself. At last year at a convention, a bunch of mutual friends got me and the person I talked about earlier to just make peace with each other and just start talking. And we shook hands. We started a dialogue. We saw each other randomly a couple of times. And we realized no one person is at fault. Each of us kind of had our own things. We were afraid to communicate. We were afraid to work through it. But once we started to, it was like that light bulb went off. And like we were holding ourselves back from each other, from a great friendship together. And I kind of kick myself at times for holding myself back from it. So needless to say, we've reconnected, and actually I can honestly say he's one of my absolute best friends. I'm happy to have him in my life. And hey, guess what? He's actually here today. Cool. Do you want to be on camera?
I'll be on camera.
Okay. So, yes. So if you listen to my podcast, you might remember this face. This is Kermit the Grog. God, how long have we known each other now?
I don't even know. Time is so...
Yeah. We've known each other for years. We went through, about a year or so, where we just...
I mean, the epic saga was what? The con where the split happened was 2 or 3 years. I think it was...
Something like that.
It was 2, and then last year was the... I don't know where to be.
I know. It's tough.
As I kick everything. No, but him telling the story just made me think about it, of just like, yeah, a year ago at that con, we buried the hatchet, but it was still kind of, it was just sort of, let's cease this is silly, why are we at odds, but it wasn't like a full-on thing, and here we are, I mean, with the being around when con happened last year, a year later, and like, it's one of my best friends again, and it's kind of awesome to have that back,
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is sometimes you can lose people, and probably be, justified, and maybe that was the right thing, and you never know, and sometimes they come back in your life in ways you'll never expect. Yeah. And be someone who's really important to you, and I think that's something important, and both reclaiming lost friends and finding new friends. There's always somebody out there that you don't see coming, freaking Persona 5 style, that will just enter your life and just be amazing and magical humans that mean a lot to you. So
yay!
I'm taking up enough of your time, so hugs. I'll
good.
Let you get back to it. But
thank you. Yeah, seriously, like this time 2 years ago, I thought we were never gonna talk again, and now he's gonna be in my wedding. So that's the thing. The world is crazy. You never know what's gonna happen. You got to keep yourself open to new possibilities and new ways, because you never know. And that's what's great. And that's why you have to never give up. Do the things that are right for you. But you don't ever have to completely lose hope and completely lose faith, because you never know what's going to happen next. So we're going to move on to a big topic here. And I'll just say the next slide's probably going to cause some emotion. So you are forewarned, but it's coming. And yeah. We have to talk about it.
I really miss this place, Spike. We had so many wonderful memories here.
We did, didn't we?
Oh, Spike, I'm so sorry. Of course losing the Golden Oak Library was hard for you, too.
Still tear up. This... it was season 4 into season 5. I don't remember the dates, but it's been years and I still tear up. And it's, I remember Big Jim Miller was at a convention years ago, and somebody asked him, why did you destroy the library? And And he said, rightfully so, that, like, you know, they needed something to show the severity of what was happening and how dangerous of a threat T-Rex was, but I don't think we would have appreciated if they killed any of the main 6 or anything like that. But this hurt. This hit us all in our hearts. And it's much in the same way that with cons closing, with the Olympics being postponed, the end of BronyCon, the end of My Little Pony Gen 4 as a series, we're all experiencing grief right now. It's a big topic. It's a huge topic. And there's so much involved here. And it's okay to grieve. And here's the thing about grief. When we talk about grief and studies of it, a lot of times it's usually put towards grieving a loved one that passed away or something. But it's not just about that. It's also about, it's also about grieving something. You can be grieving the end of a TV series that you loved. You can be grieving the loss of, a store you love to visit is going to be closing up, or a restaurant you loved is going to be closing up. Earlier this year, I saw a lot of voice actors talking about this fantastic restaurant they all used to go to that suddenly closed up. They were grieving the loss of it. This is normal. And don't let anybody ever put you down for experiencing your loss. We all have to do it. The most important thing about grief, it's not necessarily about how we do it, it's that we do it. When we lose something, you're going to grieve it. When you lose a friend, when you lose a loved one, when you lose a TV show that you love. Think about the end. We've had so many ends of eras lately. Just within the last year, we had the end of Game of Thrones. We had the end of My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. We had the end of the Thanos saga of the MCU. We just had the end of the new Star Wars trilogy. Look at all these ends that are happening together. And at a time like this, it feels almost like the dawn of an apocalypse, like the dawn of the end of things. So yeah, we're all grieving right now. And that's okay. We all can grieve. You should grieve. Now, let's talk about different things with grieving here, different models within it. And the first one we're going to talk about is something that's known as a Kübler-Ross model. Now, it's probably the one you're all most familiar with out there. It's definitely been talked about a lot, even in My Little Pony. How about that?
But don't worry, he'll reappear when the spring sun warms the ground back up.
Come on! Tortoises don't hibernate! Some pony put that picture in there as a joke. We know how upset you are about Tank, but you shouldn't take your anger out on your friends. Who said anything about anger? I didn't say anything about anger! I'm not upset, and I am not angry! Do I look angry? Think, Rainbow Dash, think! Tank's only hibernating because it's cold, right? Well, I'd rather have him awake in the heat than asleep in the cold. I'll just have to stop winter!
Rainbow Dash, your winter is going to be petless. Whatever did you do that for? Because she'll never get past this until she lets it all out.
So, you really want to do this hibernating thing, huh? Goodbye, Tank. See you later, little fella. Goodbye, Tank. We'll miss you.
So, Tanks for the Memories was written by M.A. Larson, hashtag thanks M.A. Larson, and had some brilliant moments. Let's face it, those Dash faces are amazing, and I will never not love Clear Open Skies. However, let's talk about these stages here. It's interesting to note. Here's the thing about grieving. This was suggested a little while ago, and it's the one constant model that people use for grief. The important thing to keep in mind, though, is that this is not all-encompassing. It doesn't affect everybody the same way, and you can experience the stages simultaneously in different orders, or some might not at all. Let's face it, you can be angry while you're in denial, and you can be depressed while you're trying to bargain. This happens. Again, like we said earlier, it's not about how you grieve. The important thing is that you grieve. And there's so many things you can do to process your grief, to work through it, and not just be stuck at just denial or anger. You want to experience these emotions, but you also want to work through them. And sometimes it takes a very unique thing to do it. And we're going to come back to the Golden Oak Library here for a moment and what Twilight's friends did to help her cope with the loss of the library.
What really makes home feel like home isn't what it looks like. It's the memories you make when you're there.
So, we made something that celebrates the memories we've made with you since you moved to Ponyville. The ornaments on the chandelier are reminders of all the fun we've had together. That one shows your party at the Golden Oak Library welcoming you to Ponyville. The time we shared donuts after the Grand Galloping Gala. We were hoping that being able to look at your beautiful old memories would inspire you to make new ones.
And the best part of it is, it's made from the roots of the Golden Oak Library, so you'll never forget where you came from.
It's exactly what the castle needed. And I am ready to make new memories here.
That gets me every time. I can't think of a better way that they could have transitioned into the new castle than that chandelier. It's gorgeous, it's beautiful, and it reminds us of a lot of things. The idea isn't to shut out the past because you're in pain. You can celebrate what you've experienced with a person, with a show, with a friend. You can celebrate the good times and appreciate them and use what we've learned from those times and what you've taken away from those times to celebrate the new tomorrow. It's just in the same way when BronyCon was announcing that it was going to be closing up. Just because BronyCon wasn't going to be coming back doesn't mean the conventions were going to end. So we could all take what we learned from years of conventions there and of the fandom coming together to continue the fandom that much stronger. We don't need a specific thing to keep us together. And I think that's evidenced by what's happening today. Who would have guessed this time last year that something like this would be necessary and would pop up and it would be reaching as many people as it is? We can make it through. We can learn from our past and keep it going forward. The end is not always the end. The end can be the new beginning of something great, something new. So that being said, I wanted to talk about another little segment here about grief in general and how we cope. And it's with a little thing called the 4 Tasks a Morning here. And I actually forgot to get down the name of the scientist who coined this one. I apologize. I'll try to find it later. Maybe put it in the chat. But this is an interesting thing to look at. Because you notice how with the Kubler-Ross model, it ended with acceptance. Notice what number 1 on this list of 4 tasks are here. Accepting the reality of the loss is the first one. So this just goes to show you that there's no right or wrong way to grieve as long as you go through the process here. And it's right now, a lot of us are dealing with, I think, the first 2 there. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been needing to accept the reality of the loss. Reality of the loss of our kind of freedom to just move about the world the way we want. And right now, I think a lot of us are experiencing the pain of that loss. We're hurting. And it's okay. It's okay to be afraid, to be angry, to be sad, it's okay to not be okay right now. As long as you open yourself up that this is what your experience is, and you are living it, and you are making it about the future and what it's going to be, and learning from the pain that you're feeling right now. It's never a bad thing to cry, to feel pain, to feel loss. Don't ever let anybody put you down for experiencing natural human emotion. It's okay. The next thing here, and this is a big thing, I think in the pony community, we're really working on this right now, is adjusting to the new environment without the lost object. We're adjusting to this new world. This con is an adjustment to the world around us right now. Heck, last week, my friends and I did a stream, and we're talking about doing another random panel stream next week. By the way, subscribe to me, come check it out. Shameless plug, never mind. I'm getting booed within my own home, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. But we have to make adjustments, and it's okay. That's what we're all doing right now. Take your time, adjust, do it. And as we move forward, we're going to learn from this experience here, from the loss that we experience when we're out of this crisis right now of COVID. We're going to be able to reinvest in a new reality. We can come out of this stronger as a community, as a people, as a nation, as a globe, as a world, as a fandom. And that is what I implore all of you to do. Take this time. Think about what's happening. Experience it. Talk with your friends. Reach out to those. Have your moments. And reinvest in a better tomorrow and in a better future. And I can't think of anything else more that I would say is the concept of keeping friendship magic. That is my panel. I do want to thank you all for joining. It looks like I have about 8 minutes left. So what I'm going to do is, I know they have a question room open. So I'm going to pull up my phone and see if I can pull up any questions. I might be able to get to 1 or 2 if I can. Maybe. It is trying to load. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Let me ask if anybody, while it tries to load on my phone here, either of the people in my room with me have any questions?
I mean, do you have any tips? Doesn't seem like the right word, but just sort of other things for dealing with loss, or I think even a bigger word of that is change.
As far as like how we're handling
that you personally do to help those processes
okay
along, or
that's a good thing.
Ways that you think that weren't covered
so
here.
if you couldn't hear it, the question I just was asked is ways to cope with change. There's so many you can do. I think the biggest thing is the acknowledgement and experiencing it, and it's a stressful time, and so de-stressing in any way you can. A lot of friends of mine and I have been using yoga. It's a great way to de-stress and to help yourself physically and mentally. I think, but there's other ways. Talking to friends is a huge thing to help you deal with change, because you also get that perspective back to you. Just investing in the world around you, staying healthy. There's a lot of things you can use to cope with change. And, I may be a social scientist. I may have my degree in that, but the same token, I'm not a healthcare professional. So there's other things you can do to help, speak with a healthcare professional to help in that regard too. I believe I saw a lot of chatter happening. So, wow. Whoa. Okay. I'm not going to get to everybody, but I'm going to try. Micah asked, what about the community? Will it continue? I'm worried of people leaving MLP or growing out of it. That's a fantastic question, and it's one that I think a lot of us have debated here. I think that the community will still always be here. It may look differently than how it is, but how it has been. But let's face it, Trekkies have been around for over 50 years. So this is one thing that is going to continue, I think. It may look differently, it may transform, but I think the community is still always going to be here.
And at the very least, if something, hi, I'm jumping back in early on camera, apologies. as someone who very much, when I was helping run that brony group, that I was like, when the group dies, all of my friends go away, which is not how it works. All of the connections you've made and the friends you've made and the things you've learned, that stays with you. Do I think the fandom's going anywhere? No, but that it changing or going away doesn't change all of the things that you have gained from it. So don't sort of connect those dots like I did back in the day. Those are not the correct dots to connect. So keep on. Apologies, thank you.
No, you're good. I'm trying to scroll through and get a couple of these questions in here. So, here's a good one. Grassy Blade asked, do you think that even a toxic person can be a good person?
Yes.
The simple answer is yes, but there's some people that I've realized I need to not have as a part of my life. And it's just like, I would consider them kind of toxic people, but at the same token, I believe that everybody has the opportunity to change themselves and grow and be good. I'm not the same person I was when I was younger. I know that. I grew, I changed. So everybody has the ability to. They just might not be the right person to be in your life. And that's okay. If you open your, always kind of have your best interest for yourself at heart and kind of keep yourself grounded. You don't have to give yourself openly to everybody else, especially somebody that you found to be toxic to you in the past. You can, invite them to prove themselves to you, but if they do, fantastic. If they don't, you don't need that in your life. You can move on and be better and stronger with the friends that you have. Let's see what else I got in here. Oh God, what is the most... Darky Sill Sand asked what the most emotional moment in the show for me was. The finale. I mean, I cried. I cried endlessly. That last shot. Oh, when they closed the book, it was over. It was all over. I wept incessantly, but it felt so good. I loved the ending. Sonic Fan 06 asked, what do you think of Equestria Girls not getting a conclusion like Friendship is Magic? It's a little disappointing. I'm not gonna lie. I would have loved to have seen a graduation movie or episode. I've heard little stirrings that maybe they can make something work. I don't work on the show, so I can't speak to it necessarily. But I do think that the journey of Sunset Shimmer is wonderful, and I'm glad it got captured in film and specials, and Sunset Shimmer is fantastic. In fact, my very favorite pony song is My Past Is Not Today, and I play it for myself a lot to kind of psych myself up. Okay, this will probably end up being the last one because I'm looking at time here. N30 asked about, what about those that got into the fandom or show far too late to experience the things those of us who got into it earlier did? Do you think the fandom will still be here to give us the same kind of moments it did for us future fans? Yes. This community is built on friendship, support, love, and tolerance, and all of that. So as long as you can connect with some people, there's something for you. There's still conventions going strong. I know the people from TrockCon, from Winnie City, ask Darkly, ask Charlie, the con chairs of those events. As far as I know, BabsCon's probably included in it. I haven't been there yet. I'm sure Cole would echo the sentiment from Everfree. As long as there's an interest, we're still going to put these events on. We're still going to be here with each other. I mean, just look at this. This is a prime example of there's going to be ways to connect. It may evolve. It may not always be in the same form, but there's always going to be ways to connect. It's about 12:55. I want to give a couple of minutes to the wonderful and talented Dusty Cat to get set up here. So he'll be your next streamer here, teaching you about lunchbox guitars. Give him some love and some props. That man is awesome. I've always loved working with him. If you do like what you saw here with us, we do have a Patreon. Link is on the screen, patreon.com/KFM. I do run the Keeping Friendship Magic podcast now, which we're trying to get actual podcast hosting for. So the Patreon funds that come to us right now are going to that. You can always follow me on social media. Otherwise, I'm going to be back at 6 o'clock to assist with Riffing Rainbow, along with Kermit and the lovely and talented Nova Rose. and potentially a couple of special guests too. So that being said, thank you all for joining me today. Thank you for listening and being a part of this community. I love you all, and continue to keep friendship magic out in the world. Thank you all so much.